Well, thank you for joining us here on the Market Day Report. I'm Marlon Bowling with you here on an Export Sales Thursday. Yes, it's Thursday, and we did in fact get the export sales numbers out from USDA a short time ago. Got the weekly export sales numbers, and here to help analyze those numbers and some breaking news that just came in off the wire as well. Let's go to Rich Nelson of Allendale Incorporated in McHenry, Illinois. All right, Rich, as I was walking into the studio here, I happened to come off of the printer here. I had a new sheet here of an overnight export sale. This is pretty significant. You don't see this all the time, but it was a huge corn sale to Mexico, wasn't it?
Certainly was here. Now, as far as these numbers, I think we were talking off the air that these might have been some maybe expected by yesterday's trade, but gosh darn, pretty impressive. Old crop sales for the current crop year, 845,820 metric tons. New crop sales for the 2018, the fall 2018 crop, pretty aggressive as well, 540 metric tons. So very good sales on top of our normal weekly numbers here today as well.
So we're showing the weekly numbers on the screen to our viewers at home here. We'll run through those too, but what you were talking about is a completely separate sale. It just came in, announced overnight, and combined it's 1.356 million tons of corn to Mexico for it combines this marketing year and next. So big news on corn sale here overnight. In fact, that one night corn sale was more, almost half again more than what we had the entire week last week. We're looking at last week's corn export sales at 901,400 tons. Soybeans last week, they amounted to just a hair under 2 million tons, 1.98 to be technically correct. Soybean meal, 224,500 tons last week. That was a fairly strong number. Soybean oil, 27,000 tons. And we had the wheat at 347,800 tons. Your thoughts on those numbers there, Rich?
You know, overall, as far as the corn sales, these numbers pretty much were within the more or less the trade expectation. As it stands, we still need just a few more sales to kind of meet USDA's moderately okay aggressive goal for corn. The soybean numbers, very good sales, like you mentioned, almost 2 million tons. Same story, though. We probably need a few more weeks of strong numbers to justify USDA's goal. We think it'll happen, but for right now, kind of weak here. And as far as numbers on wheat here, I would point out overall these numbers are pretty much right where we should be as far as wheat sales. So still a little slow on corn and beans, but wheat is doing okay here.
Okay, and on grain sorghum, 284,000 tons reported last week. That was significantly higher than what we had the previous week, that's for sure. Upland cotton, we had a total on the cotton of 256,600 running bales, and that includes 209,500 for the current marketing year of 2017 and 18. Now, there were some sales for next year, 2018 and 19, that amounted to 47,100 running bales. That nearby or current crop year amounted to about 28% lower than the previous week. It was up 2% from the 4-week average, though, so that's a look at the cotton numbers. And then we had rice export sales reported at 88,000 metric tons. They had a good week last week, so that was down 19% from that, but it's still 26% higher than the 4-week average. Anything going on in the outside markets here that we need to be watching here this morning, Rich?
Actually, quite a few things. It looks like we will get a new announcement as far as a new potential Fed chair. The trade right now is talking of Powell, but we'll see as far as that goes. As of this time, I don't have a time for that exact announcement when that will be seen. Otherwise, we're also looking forward to Friday's big employment numbers here. Right now, the trade's expecting some pretty impressive job growth for the month of October, so that might be a little supportive issue for some of these outside markets as well here.
Okay, well, Rich, we'll come back in a moment. We'll talk about our livestock trade as well. We're talking with Rich Nelson of Allendale, and we'll be back in just a moment. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Marlon Bowling with you. We're talking right now with Rich Nelson of Allendale Incorporated. He's based in McHenry, Illinois. Well, we ran through some of these export sales numbers on the grain and also the cotton markets here. I want to touch on the beef and pork exports here, if you don't mind here, Rich. Looks like last week on the beef export sales, this is nationwide for the entire last week, we had a total that amounted to 20,000 metric tons, and we had 16,500 of those tons earmarked for this current calendar year of 2017. Now, that was down 2% from the previous week. It was up 3% from our 4-week average. And we're starting to rack up the sales for 2018 now. That amounted to 3,500 metric tons for 2018. Then if we look at the pork export sales, here we had 2017 sales amounting to 25,800 tons. That was 42% higher than last week and 55% higher from our 4-week average. We had 2018 pork sales reported to be about 500 metric tons, so they're getting started on next year's sales there as well. So the pork sales seem to be fairly strong here this past week.
Certainly was, and this comes after what's been maybe a quiet 3 weeks of pork sales. So good to see this number rebound, and certainly posting a good rebound over last year for the same week as well. Beef sales just continue being fantastic. I guess that's the only way to look at it. This 16,500 you mentioned for this current crop year on beef sales, that's actually double. Well, in fact, more than double last year at the same time. So this whole demand argument for the meat complex, we've heard this discussion from Tuesday's strong consumer confidence numbers, Wednesday's strong ADP private employment numbers. Looks to be this demand case, at least for right now, still holding up for the meats.
Okay, the hog weights on the Iowa Southern Minnesota hog weights yesterday. I see where USDA reported they were at 283 pounds for the average weight. That compares to the week before when it was 281.7. How concerning is that to you here on the hog trade?
It certainly is just a little bit of an issue that we were not quite expecting here. And one thing to note, these are now 0.7% over last year for this specific region. In fact, the most recent whole U.S. numbers are only even with last year. So the story for the cattle has been maybe some lowering of weights based on tight supplies. On the hogs, however, it looks like maybe we're backing a couple numbers up here with this corn harvest going on. So that might be a slight problem for us in the coming weeks.
And maybe you can help explain something here. Let's take a look at yesterday's livestock summary. Now, if you recall, we had the Fed Cattle Exchange on Wednesday that sold like 1 pen of cattle, and I believe they brought 120. They were sold in Texas. Now, we had just maybe 100 head that sold yesterday on a live basis at 114. Dress basis sales, again, just a few dozen head sold at 183 to 185. So I put an asterisk on the board here just because I don't think you can read too much into that very extremely light sale yesterday. It's way out of kilter with what the bids and asks appeared to be yesterday.
I think that's a great discussion point, and certainly valid here for our discussion in the next couple of days as we do get cash cattle moved. As it stands right now, I think it's pretty safe to say most of the cattle feeding community will be accepting only a $2, if not $3 jump for cash prices this week, unless we get something unusual for the futures here today or tomorrow. Looks like this probably will be another winner for the cattle feeding side here.
What do you think the bids and asks are today then on the cattle? Have you heard?
And actually don't have anything solid at all. I would suspect we'll probably start out with bids maybe in an hour or two, running maybe $2 or $3 under last week's trade, with the clear assumption that will be moved up very quickly here to numbers probably bidding up to about a $1 or $2 gain by the end of the day, with the assumption we'll be trading $2 or $3 higher tomorrow.
Okay, thanks for spelling that out. I appreciate that. Rich Nelson of Allendale Incorporated in McHenry, Illinois. There you go, Janet, setting the table.
Possibility there. Thank you very much, Marlon. Appreciate it.